Okay, so very quickly, let's go back to our second level or our second floor. And now what we realize is that we have all of these beams in these bays. And if we look at our handout, one of them all the way over to the right says 3W 8 by 17s equally spaced typical each bay. So every bay, all 6 bays are going to have these three 8 by 17s, W 8 by 17s. Now that seems like more tedious work, doesn't it, to put those in? But it's not going to be because we're going to use another feature. If we go to the structure tab, right, there's something called beam system. Now, before we use that beam system, what we want to do is make sure that we have a W8 by 17 loaded. Let's see if we can find one. Let's go to Insert, Load Family, and while we're there, let's go down to, I think I'm in columns, or I'm in structural framing, I'm sorry, structural steel, and we're going to go to wide flange, and we're going to go to a W8 by 17. Can we find one? There's a W8 by 18. That's going to do for us, right? So we're going to say OK. Now I'm going to go back to structure and I'm going to put in beam system. I'm going to click that. And notice there's an automatic and there's a way to sketch them. Here's how we can use them. First, I have to look at my what? My members and the rules. There are rules to beam systems, just like there's rules for math and rules for English, right? So first I want to select my proper beam type, which is a W8 by 17 or 18. The justification in this instance is going to be the center because we're going to center that space, right? We could have a fixed distance, but what we want to say is give me not a fixed distance, but a fixed number. That way it's going to measure that space and equally drop these beams in for me. So I'm going to click fixed number. I want the number in this instance to be 3. And now I'm going to come and I'm going to hover over a support. And look at that. It drops it right in. I'm going to hover over this support and drop that in, and drop that in, and drop that in. Now, another way I can draw a beam system, just so you know, in certain instances you can, is if I go back to beam system, I can sketch it. Because sometimes your automatic won't give you exactly what you want. So I'm going to hit sketch beam system, and now I can do what? I can say pick supports, and I'm going to click it, and I'm going to say click this one, this one, this one, and this one, and hit finish. And what is it saying? Up, lines must be in closed loops. So I have to hit continue, and if I hit TR on my keyboard for trim, I can trim that here, trim this, and trim that. And then it gives me a beam system, and look, it even tagged it for me. We'll talk about that too, okay? Now, another way I could do this, just so you can see, is if I could go to structure and I could say beam system, I could say sketch, and then I could say pick lines if I wanted to, and I could pick that line, but you're going to see a problem with this in a moment too. I'm going to trim, and then I'm going to hit finish. But look how those are a little bit off from the other ones because of how I selected them, right? So you can see how it's better to pick either what, let it automatically put it in because it's going to go for the center of the supports, or you can click on pick supports and it'll do it. So let's get rid of this beam system, right? If I hover, see, I can click on that beam individually, unpin it, and delete it. I don't want to do that though because see, there's still a beam system in there. So what I want to do is hover till I get those dashed lines, click, and say remove beam system, right? And now those are just individual entities. The reason I like for them to be beam systems, and I'll go ahead while we're here and just put this last one in. See how it selects the center supports and puts that in? The reason I like that is because I can go in here and hover and click and say I don't want W8 by 18s anymore, right? Can I change the beam system here? Yes, look, I can change the type to another one like a W16 by 36. And that's helpful, okay? Especially if my steel requirements change. Maybe I added a printing press to that area. I got to bulk up the horizontals. I'm going to undo that so you can see that, okay? Now that we've got all those, guess what I can do now? Do I need to try to come up to this level and copy all those up there? Absolutely not. Or do I? Well, let's check and see. I'm going to go to the second floor and I'm going to select everything. And then I'm going to go to filter and I'm going to say check none and I'm going to say structural beam systems and apply. Okay. Copy. Then paste align to selected levels to the roof. Now if I go to my south elevation, what's my problem? Same thing, right? So what can I try and do? I've got to select everything, 3D view, okay, I've got it all. However, I need to still go to my filter and say check none, then check the beam systems, apply. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not getting anything, am I? Am I getting anything? If my beam selected, they are selected. People in this instance, you can't just go in here and select them all and drop them down, right? Or wait a minute, can you? Why in this instance didn't you see the two ends of those beams? It's because it's a beam system. They're not individual beams. It's a system that works as a whole. Think of it as a group of people that always have to go somewhere together. Okay? And I'd make a joke right now, but I'm not going to do that. All right? So what do we need to do? I can select this and right click. Oh, I don't want to select all instances visible in view though, do I? No. I just simply want these here. Filter, check none, beam systems apply, offset from level. I'm going to hit the home key so I can hit a minus. Then I'm going to put a 4 in here and I'm going to hit apply. And now my beam systems are down where they need to be. And a look at my 3D view shows me that I have a very nice little structural model. Okay. And so you've gotten a good feel for some basic structural members. Now, there's a whole lot more to structural that we won't get to today, but that we will look at more, especially on the editing end in some of our other classes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video, and that will be the last one for this lecture today.